Hello and welcome to day one of STEAM Week. So today's activity is making Scribble bots. Now you may be wondering, what's a Scribble bot? So a Scribble bot is is a robot that we're going to make that colors on its own. So you have received a wide variety of supplies: a plastic cup, hot glue stick, battery, little wire connectors, a motor, and 4 markers. You have also received in your extra supplies little decorations and stuff. This is a fun time to use those things, or stickers. And there is a lot of flexibility with this. You can choose to use different supplies if that's what you want. I sent this plastic cup, but you might have other containers you want to try. And so I encourage you to, play a little bit and figure out what might work for you. So the first thing you're going to want to figure out is your motor. And you're going to want to figure out how to configure it so you can make it work for you. Okay, so first thing is we're going to look at our motor. As you can see, there's a black wire and a red wire attached to it. These sometimes can come disconnected, so I would highly advise putting a small piece of tape over those connectors so they don't fall off. It's just a small piece of tape. So we now have our wires taped down, and you might have noticed you got these different color connector wires. So let's look at one of these. So on both ends there's these little, you can pull these plastic parts back, and you can see it has little grabbers. And these are to connect your wires and your battery. Now, if you were to just look at the motor and the battery, it makes it run, which is what we want. However, you're not going to want to just attach your motor to your battery, because then you're always going to have an on circuit. In order for a circuit to work, you have to have it in a complete circle. So it goes from the battery to the motor to the battery again. And while we're building this, we're not going to want the motor to be running the entire time. That's where these nifty little wires can come in. So we could attach it we can take a wire and attach it, but then if we want it to turn off, we can remove it. So that's what we're going to be doing. So you can use one of these wires or 2 for your circuit. I'm going to be using 1, but it is the first time I did this, I did 2 just to be sure that it would work. So I'm going to connect my wire to my connector, and then this is where you're going to want to be careful while you're making these connections to your battery, because you have to make sure that metal is touching the battery on both ends. So it can't be on its side, it can't be with the plastic, it has to be metal, which on the positive side of the battery isn't too hard, because we can do that. I would still advise taping this down because it's very easy for that to snap off. So I'm going to add a little piece of tape. So there we go. I'm connected. So then on the other end, so I have, for context, I have motor to the black wire to the yellow connector, and the yellow connector to the positive side of the battery. Now I'm going to connect the red wire to the negative side of the battery. You hear that? It's running, which is exactly what we want. So for the negative side, you're going to also have to tape it down. Now make sure that your wire is actually connecting to the battery. There we go. So now it's running. I'm going to disconnect our yellow and black wire so that the motor stops running. We don't want the battery or the motor to die while we're building this. There you go. Now you might have noticed it didn't work the first time I plugged it in. It's because these sides are very easy to come off, which is why we tape them. I think I'm even going to add an extra piece of tape to the negative side just to make sure that it sticks. So you might have been wondering why we have a hot glue stick. And that's a very good question. When I learned how to do this, we used hot glue sticks as our propellers. We would take it and we would poke little holes in. You can kind of see there that it's like a weird hole thing. And you can stick that into your motor. And now you have like a propeller. Hi, Editing Zoe here. So, as you are about to see, I had a lot of trouble with my propeller and it would often not stick. And I mention in here that you don't have to use any kind of glue gun or anything, but you're about to see a compilation of propeller flying off while I'm trying to use it. So I highly recommend using some sort of glue. I will be showing at the end how I attached mine to make it work, but be very careful. Make sure you're using some sort of adhesive to connect the propeller to the motor, because otherwise you're going to have to look like this. 3, 2, 1. There we go. And now back to the instructional video. Now I'm gonna hold this. I will also say this activity is hard to do with only 2 hands. So if you have if your siblings are willing to help you, you can build your own, but you may ask each other for help holding things. So I'm gonna connect my circuit again. Make sure the battery is connected. There we go. So something that's interesting is that I have it in the center of my glue stick. However, you may decide to do it off center and see what happens. I've seen Scribble bots that work that way, so I would highly recommend playing around with that. So now we're making the body of our Scribble bot. So I'm using a plastic cup, similar to the one you guys have, and I have 3 markers here. I thought I had a 4th one. I have some around, so I'm sure I had 4. Where did the 4th one go? I'm gonna find it later and be like, oh. I'm using it for my camera. So you can decide how many markers you want on here. You'll have to probably play around a little bit and see what works for you. I'm going to show you my process, but yours does not have to be anything like mine. So I'm going to start with I'm going to try doing 3 markers, kind of like, all the way around. So something that I realized the first time I made a Scribble bot is I had made all 3 the same height all the way around, but then it didn't move. So I'm going to try putting the gray one a little bit higher or lower. Make it so it's lower on the bottom, so it's at an angle. We're going to see what happens. I don't know if this will work. So then we're going to want to find a way to attach your motor to your Scribble bot. So one thing you're going to have to consider is which side do you want the propeller on? Do I want it on this side, or do I want it on this side? There's an easier way to hold it. This side. I've also seen people like cut holes in there Scribblebot, and so that this is on the inside and it sticks out. So I'm gonna try taping this down. Now you're gonna want to be careful that you're not getting your propeller isn't gonna get stuck anywhere. So, see, immediately you can see. I'm gonna bring this up close. When it's hitting the cup sometimes. Push this a little bit more forward, and there goes our propeller. So now I'm going to tape the battery on top as well. Or, this is also where you can be creative, because maybe you want it as a counterweight somewhere. I'm just going to tape it to the top. And we'll see where we are from we'll see how we are going from there. We'll do this and figure out if we need to change anything. Now, you might notice I have a cord dangling. It will get connected here, but something that might be helpful is the twist ties that are in your extra supplies. So I'm going to attach this. Okay, yeah, see, my cords aren't sticking to the battery, of course. And that's the problem, and that's why I say you probably will need a lot of tape for it. What I'm going to do is tape it so that I actually do want these connected so I can make sure it actually works when I plug it in. I'm going to go around the battery and make tension. We'll try that. And let's make the connection. Hey, it's working! And as you can see, it's moving. But we still have the caps on. And we I have some poster board. You can use a poster board, you can use papers attached to each other. You're probably going to want to put a border. I'm not going to do that right now because time, and you might not be able to see it. So I'm just going to use my hands as borders. Oh wow, this is interesting. It's so cool to watch what kind of patterns you get, and there's so many things that factor how you see, this is interesting because it was going very straight and now it's kind of going circular. Usually they're consistent with their pattern. Ignore the messy background. So I'm not even going to really put hot glue in there. I'm just going to kind of stick the hot glue tip into our propeller. Stay. And then as quickly as I can, stick it on here. And I'm going to hold it until it cools. See that dried too quick. Actually, I'm going to try actually putting a little bit of hot glue in there. Okay. Let's try this. And like I said earlier, maybe modeling clay is what you use. Maybe you're able to make a better hole in the glue stick than I did. Okay, so that's how you make Scribblebots. So you can find there are different ways to problem solve, and I picked one that I feel a little embarrassed about because I wanted to be able to do one where you guys, knowing what you guys have at home, what I sent you, you could do it. But you might have to get creative and figure out how to attach your propeller. And you might find something that works better than a hot glue stick. You might decide, oh, you want to use a different kind of cup, or maybe you want to try colored pencils instead of markers, or crayons. You know, you can have fun figuring out what works best for you. And so I hope that you guys have fun with this activity, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye!